What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackmine, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, there's some interesting conversations, some fun ones to have today on whether or not Justin Fields has a real opportunity to start for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we'll dive into our expected route, the way I see the Steelers giving Justin Fields an opportunity, maybe not this season, but next. Meanwhile, the cornerback versus wide receiver debate has started, and I am excited to dive into it. What is the Pittsburgh Steelers' next move, and what one is more important? And then, as we do every day, and as we will continue to do every day, we'll dive into all your questions, so make sure that you're dropping them in the chat, and we'll answer them throughout and at the end of the show, as we do always. It is a big cloudy day here in the Berg, but it's a good one. It's not bad. How you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling pretty good. Trying to get my heart rate down before what happened right before we hit record. Obviously, my cat left me a present on the other side of the room, so I quickly went over to try to clean that up. But I'm feeling good now that my heart rate is a little bit lower.
That's good. I'm glad. It's always nice when you hear the little hoot and you're like, no, come on, pal, don't do this to me. Not right now. I did like the for those of you who didn't get to see it. Nobody got to see it. I got to see it. Nick goes, all right, we got 2 minutes. My cat's throwing up. I'm gonna be right back. And I was like, that was perfect timing. Actually, got back with like 35 seconds. So it was smooth. It was good execution. It was good execution.
Thank you. I mean, hey, listen, at this point, you get 2 cats. You got to be an expert at that, or else you're going to spend more of your time cleaning up stuff than you are going to be actually enjoying your life.
That's true. Somebody needs to get a dog on this show because we've become a cat show, and I don't.
We have.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Get a dog. No, I'm all for it, but I don't think the vast majority of people will accept that. So we'll get it. I'll convince my wife. Don't worry.
There you go.
All right. Let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers football here. We'll start with the Justin Fields conversation. It's an interesting one to be had. Yesterday, Ray Fittipaldo said that he sees Justin Fields' best opportunity as Wednesdays, veteran days off for Russell Wilson to earn the starting job in Pittsburgh in 2025. 2024 is seemingly out of the question, at least for right now, and I believe that is truly the case. It's Russell Wilson's job right now. It's his job to lose, and I have a hard time believing that he's going to lose it. Even during the season, I have a hard time believing that he's going to lose it. His leash is not going to be very short. There are a lot of people talking, well, when you have Justin Fields, if Russell Wilson goes into a game and throws 2 or 3 interceptions, it's over. I don't necessarily agree with that. I could see numerous games in a row, several games where Russell Wilson really struggles. Then you have to make a decision, but it won't happen until you are guaranteed. This is the reason we are not going to win a Super Bowl is Russell Wilson, and Justin Fields gives us a better opportunity to hunt for a Lombardi. At that point, it will be a change. But until then, I don't see this as a real competition. I don't see Russell Wilson losing the job in 2024, and I see him being the Steelers quarterback. And from what I've been told, the Pittsburgh Steelers truly believe that Russell Wilson could give them or make them a contender for a Super Bowl this season, that they believe he's got that type of upside. Do I agree with that? I don't know. I'm trying not to agree or disagree. I'm trying to look at it and say, I hope that they're right, because it would be great and a lot of fun for the Pittsburgh Steelers to make their way to a Super Bowl, to beat teams like the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets and everybody else included. That would be awesome. And for Russell Wilson to come and revive his career, I mean, I'm always pro player. And if Russell Wilson gets an opportunity to be that guy, solidify his Hall of Fame career, I'm all for it. That being said, the past couple of years of Russell Wilson have not been Super Bowl caliber, and that brings some question marks. But the Justin Fields side of this, the Justin Fields, is he the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Me and you have talked a number of times about whether or not Justin Fields will get an extension this offseason, and I think that there's still cards on the table for him to do so, but I don't know if that's guaranteed. I think it's far from guaranteed as we sit here today. Where he could earn his next opportunity if that does not become a thing. If Justin Fields does not get a contract before the start of the season, is he guaranteed one in Pittsburgh next year? And how are they going to look at it? Well, it's not going to be, hey, Justin Fields is going to get time during the end of games so that you could see what he brings to the table. It's not going to be, all right, well, anytime that the Steelers are in garbage time, Justin Fields will get his opportunities. It won't be split quarterback play. It won't be any of that. Ray Fittipaldo said it'll be Wednesdays, veteran days off. And I think I 100% agree with him that if Justin Fields is going to get an opportunity, it's going to be the days where Russell Wilson does not practice and Justin Fields has an opportunity to do so, to be the starting quarterback for a day. And it works in Justin Fields' favor for a number of reasons. For one, George Pickens is not getting vet days off. So George Pickens is still on the field. You're still going to have Pat Freiermuth. You're still going to have most of your starting offensive line. This is going to be an offense. Najee Harris will probably be the only running back that gets a vet day off this season. And you're going to have most of that starting offense. So you're going to get opportunities against scout team defenses to show, hey, I could run this pretty smoothly, that I could put this into place and be that guy, show, hey, I know how to command an offense. On top of that, you get to learn from Russell Wilson in the film room and in meetings and stuff like that, and get to showcase who you are while you learn from Russell Wilson. So you don't have to be the commanding officer. You just have to be the guy that looks like he could be the commanding officer and looks like he's fully embracing and taking in what Russell Wilson is spitting out there and being able to reciprocate it into a starting caliber quarterback. You could show the Steelers all season long that you have all the components of being a starting quarterback, and they will watch that and say, all right, yeah, we will give him an opportunity. It makes so much sense. So much sense. If you're in a regular job and you're training somebody or somebody else is training somebody and you're looking at it to say, this is eventually going to be this guy's replacement, then you want him to get as much experience without taking on that massive role. And that's what the Steelers are going to do with this one. So it could be a year of wasted time, and they'll have an opportunity to see that. Hey, Justin Fields isn't that guy. You know, we know he's not that guy. We get a sense he's not that guy. Or it could be a year of, we got to develop Justin Fields with zero worries after a couple of years in the NFL, which is massive, and it works. So I don't know. I look at Justin Fields' best opportunity as Wednesdays in the film room, and then showcase everything else. Give the Steelers a reason to say, hey, Justin Fields is the future, because we saw that he could do all these things in a smaller role this year, and we've already put the work in. Yeah, no, maybe a little bit.
I mean, the natural talent's already there, and it's already been on display through, 38 NFL games. So the Steelers know what they have at that aspect. What they need to learn this year is, who is he off the field? And that goes perfectly with what you're saying here. Who is he in the film room? What does he become in the film room with Russell Wilson? I think this is a great way to see it. And you mentioned the one thing that everybody is kind of thrown in there is like, well, if there's garbage time in games, how many times were there garbage time in games last year for the Pittsburgh Steelers? All of these games were close, and the only two that I can think of that weren't were the season opener against the 49ers and that game against the Texans in week, was that 4? Something early in the season again. So there's not going to be a lot of opportunities for garbage time drives for Justin Fields. So I like the idea of giving him Wednesdays. The only question that I have is, Russell Wilson he's not Ben Roethlisberger, right? He's not as injured as Ben Roethlisberger. He takes care of his body more than Ben Roethlisberger. Do you think that Russell Wilson will actually have those Wednesdays off, or do you think that there's a chance that he looks at this and says, no, I'm good to go every day, because he was out there every day at OTAs?
I do think that there's less of a shot than, Ben Roethlisberger. It was a guarantee Ben had Wednesdays off. I think it's less than a guarantee with Russ. It would definitely was. But at the same time, Cam Hayward takes days off. TJ Watt takes days off. It's more so of, Mike Tomlin says it the best. Sometimes you have to keep guys back from hurting themselves. And I think that's the situation here. Is Russ is a dude who's going to get hit. I mean, we went over yesterday how much he actually does get hit. The Steelers are going to look at it and say, we're going to protect Russ from himself, and we're going to make sure he gets a day off. Wednesdays is, Aaron Rodgers doesn't even show up to the facility until Thursday. So I just think at some point quarterbacks don't have a reason to be there. And that's, Wednesday practices, Thursday practices, most practices during the season are pretty useless for an NFL team. It's not much going on. You're really just kind of going through some scripts, but most of the stuff you're doing in the film room, these guys don't really need practice reps. So it's definitely an opportunity. And at the same time, the Steelers, I think, will want to see what Justin Fields can do on Wednesdays. I don't think that they're going to hold Russell Wilson back so that they get a look at Justin Fields, but I do think that they're going to not push Russell Wilson and use Justin Fields as a bit of an excuse to do so. Let me ask you this. What is in your mind, what is the shot or the chance or the, probability that Justin Fields gets a deal done before the start of the season, and that eliminates all of this in your head right now?
In my head right now, thinking especially because of the way that they're going into this season, the amount of quarterbacks that are going to be available next offseason, whether it be via the draft or via free agency, I would probably put it at somewhere around 15-20%. I
Yeah.
think the Steelers want to see more. They're not going to give out a contract. I mean, yeah, I mentioned it. They've seen 39 games from this guy, but in the building, they've seen him for what, 6 weeks total? I think they're going to want to see a little bit more before they hand out a contract. And I also don't know, we've been throwing out the Jordan Love contract. Is that what Justin Fields wants, or is it going to be a more strenuous negotiation with him? That much I don't know. So I'm going to put it at 15 to 20 before the season.
Yeah, I hope Justin Fields isn't looking for more. He's going to have a bad time next offseason if he's looking for. There's just not going to be a team. There's not going to be a team that's willing to give up a boatload of money for Justin Fields. It's just not going to happen. You might find yourself in a Baker Mayfield situation where you get a 1-year prove it deal somewhere. That's a great situation, cool, but who is that team? Because to be honest, Baker Mayfield lucked himself into Tampa Bay. That situation's not going to be there every year. Maybe it's a New York Giants with a really bad team there. Maybe that's what you're looking at, or something worse. I don't know if I agree that there's a better opportunity than Pittsburgh. So why would you hurt yourself with negotiations? What is the record the Pittsburgh Steelers have to have? That's the next part of this is if the Steelers finish with the top 10 draft pick, is Justin Fields still in Pittsburgh? I say no, because at that point you're going to draft a quarterback. Where do the Steelers have to stand? What's the end of the season have to look like for Pittsburgh in order to say, hey, Justin Fields is the best option here and Justin Fields is not the best option here?
For it to be the best option, I feel like they'd have to finish, like you mentioned, good enough to where those top quarterbacks are kind of off the board and you're drafting more of a developmental piece if you're going to get anybody from the draft. And at the same time, it has to be to a point where you're not looking at Russell Wilson and saying, well, we should give this guy another year because he's impressed. So honestly, I feel like where they have finished the last couple of years around 9-8, 10-7, and get into the playoffs and lose around, I think there's a possibility if they do something like that, that lines up with Justin Fields getting the opportunity next season, saying, all right, well, we need something more than what we got from Russ. Justin has been good all season long. Let's put him in that pole position, as everybody has liked to use this offseason.
Yeah. So there will be quarterbacks that go in the first round. And I agree with you. I think that the Russ thing is still there. That, again, is more Russ than anybody else, though. That's tough. He's got to – if Russ goes and wins a Super Bowl, he should be going and looking for $40+ million next season. There should be no – go get your bag, boy. You just got 2 Super Bowls. Go get your bag again. In ESPN's latest mock draft, which is – it's an early one, but it's there. There are 1, 2, I believe just two quarterbacks in the picks, the back half of the draft after the Pittsburgh Steelers, who picked 13th. Those 2 quarterbacks are Texas A&M's Connor Wingman and Notre Dame's, which I lost him here, Notre Dame's Riley Leonard. Neither of them I'm super impressed with. Both of them give me kind of Bo Nix vibes, which is, fine if that's what you're looking for, but nothing crazy. I think that that's where the Steelers kind of cut it off, is after the Carson Beck, the Shadur Sanders, the whoever's the dude out of LSU. Once those guys are done, then it's okay, Justin Fields, and maybe you go and you get another bad veteran who has some upside. Go get a Daniel Jones for no money and have him compete with Justin Fields, which stinks, but I think that's where the Steelers stand. It's a long ways away, but the conversation is already starting to build because you have to have expectations moving forward. And I'm sure the Steelers do when it comes to where they stand. So I would say Justin Fields' shot of signing a contract before training camp, slim right now, even though I'm not ruling it out. During the season, impossible. After the season, you better hope that neither of these guys, Russ has to be bad, and then Justin Fields also has to be bad to put the Pittsburgh Steelers in a position where they're like, all right, well, neither of these guys are good enough. We're going to draft somebody and we'll move on. So long conversation, but I think Wednesday's vet days off. That's a good one. Cornerback or wide receiver. That's the next topic of conversation for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers have 2 pressing needs right now. Cam Sutton suspended for 8 games in the regular season. The Steelers still don't have a wide receiver 2. It is July 11th. No moves will be made as of right now. That's not what this conversation. What is the next move? No. What is the bigger move? That is where the Pittsburgh Steelers stand. They have just over $15 million in cap space. They will most likely use at least some, if not most, of that money before the start of the regular season. Corner versus wide receiver. I got thoughts here. Your thoughts. What's the bigger need? Not the next need. What's the bigger need for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Of those two, I think undoubtedly, to me, it's the wide receiver. You have to go out and get a wide receiver, especially because you look at what the Steelers have on defense outside of slot corner. They have enough talent. They have enough ability to make up for that hole. On offense, it remains to be seen. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of question marks. Obviously, what do these quarterbacks look like? What does Arthur Smith's offense look like? And does it lend to having some lesser talented, but still talented nonetheless, wide receivers when it comes to guys like Scotty Miller and Van Jefferson? I think you're a lot more confident if you bring in a wide receiver 2 than if you bring in a slot cornerback. I just think that there's a bigger need at wide receiver. Not to say that it's a 100%. If you don't get it, the season's over, because it's not. But I think that you're a lot more confident if you bring in a wide receiver 2 and where the level of this team goes than you are if you just bring in another slot cornerback.
Okay. I agree. I agree with that with the talent wise, because you could put a Graylin or an Arnold Graylin. I keep saying that name backwards. A Josiah Scott. You could put an Anthony Averett in there and say, all right, this isn't great, but we can make it work. I don't have any faith in Van Jefferson or Quez Watkins. Scotty Miller's looked like the best of them, and that's scary. It's not where the Pittsburgh Steelers want to be. You could bank on Calvin Austin, but I think it's too early to bank on Calvin Austin. I agree with you. The jump that you will take if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers when it comes to a wide receiver over a corner is pretty significant. And I think that is by far their biggest need. But I will make the argument, just to play devil's advocate here, that if the Steelers are going to win by running the football, being secure on offense, and not giving up points on defense, which is what their formula is right now, then going out and getting a guy who is going to be just as productive as Cam Sutton was going to be probably keeps you in a much at that same level than a wide receiver 2. Because wide receiver 2 is great and you're probably going to score more points, but is Jamar Chase going to score 3 touchdowns and have 150 yards on you both times because you don't have anybody to defend him? And the Giants, Malik Neighbors can play everywhere. That's a big one. But you have Atlanta with Drake London in the middle, Kyle Pitts in the middle. There are names to watch when it comes to a slot corner position. I just think that if you're going to keep yourself at a baseline, corner keeps you there. Whereas a wide receiver brings you up, but also, maybe Russ stinks and now it doesn't really make a difference. Justin Fields stinks. Maybe it doesn't make a difference. Talent-wise, it's wide receiver. I think biggest need is easily wide receiver. Would you spend the money on wide receiver? Say, let's lay a situation out here. You got a corner worth $3 million, easy signing, makes it a big impact. Patrick Peterson, Akella Witherspoon, Stephon Gilmore, name like that available on the roster. $3 million. Brandon Ayuk, 15 plus a massive contract. You can't do them both. What one are you going with?
If I'm in the thought process of Omar Khan, which is Super Bowl or bust, I go for Brandon Ayuk. Simply because also that's not a wide receiver 2 to me. That is a wide receiver 1A, and you have a 1A situation with him and George Pickens. But if I'm in the headspace that Omar Khan seemingly has been in all summer long, I say, all right, we're going to try to outscore that problem at slot corner by bringing in one of the top receivers in the National Football League, and we're going to go do that right now because that brings you closer ultimately to a Super Bowl. It's easier to go out there and get the $3 million slot corner, and it does shore up what should be a top 5 defense. But at the same time, if you can get that offense to be even top 12 and have a top 10 defense, that puts you in a pretty good position in the AFC.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I'm going wide receiver, and I'm not even thinking about it. I'd give up the first round pick. That's the thing, is if you go and win a Super Bowl this year, it doesn't matter who your quarterback is next year. You want a Super Bowl this year. You'll figure it out next year. You'll want a Super Bowl this year. That's all you have to do. So I agree with you. The wide receiver is a big one. More likely. Let's say finish it with that one. More likely is the cornerback situation. Yeah. Because one, there's no acquisition cost. It's somebody that's on the open market right now looking for work. And two, the price is certainly much more palatable for the Steelers. Yeah, I'm easily going the corner, but I will say that I don't think wide receiver is much farther behind. I will say that if the door opens, if this conversation happened in 2.5 weeks, I think they're pretty neck and neck because that door is open. But I would say in a month, the end of August, wide open. Door
Yeah.
is wide open.
Especially because you'll see who's actually available on the wide receiver side of things. Right now, you can
Yeah.
see everybody that's available on the corner side of things. Wide receivers,
Yes.
it's like, well, they might be available, but we got to wait until training camp. They might be again. It's this thing that you mentioned. In a month, we'll have a better idea of what the field looks like.
Yep. And for right now, and when that month happens, if nothing does happen, because they could toss Josiah Scott out there and feel totally fine, Beanie Bishop and everybody else, and say, hey, we're going to wait it out. Patrick Peterson will be on the market. We're not really worried about it. In a month, it could be, hey, what decision are you going to make? They're going to go Brandon Ayuk. They're going to go Cortland Sutton. They're going to go. That's the only names I'm going to toss out there because I almost said DK Metcalf, and that's not going to happen. Okay.
No.
So we'll toss out the realistic ones as we continue to go. All right. We're in July. We're in the abyss. That's all I got to talk about today, but I do want to answer everybody's questions. It looks like we got a bunch of them. So continue to toss them in the chat. We will answer all of them before we head out of here. We appreciate you guys jumping on as always. I know it's early. What do we got?
Let's start with Joe Dilly, and I think we've started with Joe's question 3 times this week, so Joe's getting his
like
questions in early. Yeah, it should be like
you,
he's leader in the clubhouse for questions of the week because he's getting them in early. He says, "Is it feasible to think that the team sticks with who they have and installs a package rotation with the current cornerbacks? Then it's affordable for them to go and get a wide receiver."
Great question, and I like that it stuck with the conversation that we're having here. So I do think that it's feasible to have a rotation at corner when it comes to the slot. My issue is what's that rotation? Because I don't think that they have one right now. Like that last year, it was supposed to be Elijah Riley and Chandon Sullivan. That quickly just turned into Chandon Sullivan. Right now, it would be, if I had to guess, Arnold Grayland or Grayland Arnold. I will learn what direction that name goes at one point. Josiah Scott and Anthony Averett / Beanie Bishop would be my guess. I don't think that's a very strong rotation of 3 to have for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but you could probably get away with it, and then you could afford a wide receiver. I think you could afford both of them by the end of the summer. It's just a matter of, is Patrick Peterson willing to take a no money job here in Pittsburgh to come and try to win a Super Bowl, or are they going to have to go and get somebody worse?
The one question that I actually have based off of that is, and this might be completely unrealistic, so shut me down if you need to. Joey Porter last year started to make his bones in the league by following people. And one of the biggest questions you've had is, well, what happens when you face a Jamar Chase? What happens when you face a Stephon Diggs who goes into the slot? Would it be realistic that he follows that player into the slot and then you throw out one of the young guys, Trice or Rush, on the outside because they're more comfortable there?
I'm not going to say no to that, but last year Joey Porter Jr. didn't follow Stephon Diggs in the slot in the playoffs because once you go into the slot, that's a totally different position. Now he might stay on the outside and follow him once he leaves from the slot wide receiver role, follow him to the inside, but you still want that guy that could rush off the edge. You still want that guy that could be physical and match up with the tight end when need be. You still want that guy who's going to play dime or the dime corner role when you're in dime packages. You want that guy. Joey Porter can't be that guy. I mean, he could, but you're going to miss a massive chunk on the outside. I don't think that that's very realistic, consistently realistic. I don't think it's consistently realistic. At some point, yes, like, and in some instances, you will see that. Like Amari Cooper's coming to town. You're not lining Josiah Scott up against Amari Cooper every single play. That's just not going to happen. But you're also not going to line up Joey Porter Jr. in the slot every play and say that's going to work out for the best of us, because I don't think it is. And you're leaving a wide open door on the outside with a guy like Corey Trice or Darius Rush if they're not ready. So that's just as big of a question mark.
Let's move over to ZYE's question. Says, off of defense alone, how would you rank the AFC North and their top positional strength? P.S. As a married 20-something, I wish you and Jillian many happy years in marriage. All love.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. How would I rank the AFC North and their top positional strengths? So, I mean, I would rank the AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Cincinnati. No. The Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Cleveland Browns, and the Cincinnati Bengals. When it comes to positional strength, I mean, Lamar Jackson. Oh, we're going defense alone. Oh, defense alone, I think I'm switching that up. I'm going Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals there. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, it's easily your front seven. Outside of Larry Ogunjobi, monsters across the board. And Larry's not bad. Dean Lowry's not bad. Your inside linebackers are nasty, and I think Nick Herbig's going to be just as big of a menace as the rest of the two. So I'm going the Pittsburgh Steelers with their front seven. The Cleveland Browns, I mean, their secondary is what's terrifying, but their front seven's also nasty. So it's tough. But I'll go secondary with the Cleveland Browns. With the Baltimore Ravens, I mean, your defensive line. I'm not going to say front seven because Trenton Simpson, I'm not totally sure on yet, but I'm going to go defensive line there. Obviously, crazy good, and even like as low as a guy like Kyle Van Noy, who's a veteran, reliable. And then the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm also going to go their defensive line. Their secondary is good too, but I don't know. Like, it's a lot of moving parts, a lot of veterans. Daxton Hill hasn't turned out to what they thought he would be. Just a lot of moving pieces. But the Cincinnati Bengals, I think, have the biggest question marks.
I think you could go Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator. You go little Lou Anarumo
there. Yeah, true. That is easily their hottest. And like, as crazy as it sounds, the Baltimore Ravens, when you just look at it as paper, probably have the worst of the group, which is wild.
Let's go to another question from Joe Dilly. Says, I heard rumors that the league may add another game to the season. How's that going to work? And I missed the old Pro Bowl game. How do you fix that?
We all missed the old Pro Bowl game. You can't fix it. It will never get fixed. The Pro Bowl will eventually go away. It's a contact sport. It's not the NBA. It's not the MLB. It's not the NHL where the NHL they don't even play a game, correct? They play 3-on-3. I'm almost positive, right?
They just do a 3-on-3 tournament. Yeah.
3-on-3. So they even dim it down as much as they can. Contact sports are hard, man. You're not going to get a guy like TJ Watt, who's been banged up all season, forcing himself through injuries, to come out here and just smoke people in February. It's not going to happen. So I don't think it could be fixed. Unfortunately, it's just going to get worse and worse. But I agree with you. I missed it too. The rumors that the season is going to expand. Yeah, I think that's inevitable. I don't think that I think at some point we're looking at 20 games. You got to add a second bye week at some point, but the NFL is going to push this out as long as humanly possible because they understand the money in a longer season. I mean, you could get 25 games. Fans are going to watch every single one of them. So they're going to push it out. It's just you're going to add another bye week, I think, at 18, and then you'll probably wait until about 20, maybe 21 to add another bye week at that point.
Bat210 wants to know, is the wide receiver production in general going to be worse due to Arthur Smith's new scheme?
No, it's going to be 100 times better. 100 times better. You will have more routes. You will have routes that fit people's needs, which is wild. And George Pickens is going to do so much more than the go route and the crossing route, because that is all he did last season, was a nice slant and a nice run straight down the field. So I think that you'll see a lot more concepts, a lot more trying to get guys open. Pat Freiermuth will be utilized in a lot more ways, 100 times better. And Arthur Smith's not a passing guy, but go look at his wide receivers and his tight end play, even in Atlanta, but especially in Tennessee. He had production everywhere, and that's going to come to Pittsburgh.
Still Cold wants to know, hey, Noah and Nick, do you think this team has swagger? It seems like that's needed to be great. Look at the Steel Curtain. Look at Blitzburg.
I'll let you answer that one first. God, that was addressed to both of us.
I think that there's one player. First of all, I think that certain players on the Steelers already had it. Minka, TJ has that understated, just walk in, do your job better than everybody, walk out. I think Patrick Queen brings a lot of attitude to this defense. Him next to Landon Roberts, I think, brings a lot of attitude. And then I don't know if what I would call Russell Wilson having is swagger, but he certainly has confidence.
Yeah, I agree. I'll toss some names out there that you didn't mention here. When it comes to Pittsburgh Steelers, Blitzburg, Steel Curtain, punch you in the mouth swagger, because you're talking defense, but it's both sides of the ball here. Patrick Queen that's the name there. Obviously, like I said, Minka, Joey Porter Jr., Those are big ones. Jalen Warren's a punch you in the mouth type of guy. Jalen Warren's I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to punch you in the mouth type of football player, which is, that's what you're looking for. That's definitely what you're looking for. Scotty Miller strikes me as a guy with some swagger, but you got the offensive line, and that's where the swagger comes from. That's where, Marquise Pouncey was Pittsburgh Steelers. That guy would murder for you. Murder. It wouldn't even think twice about it. Ramon Foster and everybody else on that line would kill for each other as well. That's what you're looking at this year. You're looking at Broderick Jones, a punch in the mouth. Isaac Seumalo's terrifying. Zach Frazier, I think, brings some of that like old school, quiet, but I'll crawl myself off the field type of swagger. The offensive line, I think, has got some swag this year. I'm excited to see it.
Let's move over to Pittsburgh Hornets, who asks, how would you rank the chance to start at least 2 games out of Justin Fields, Mason Rudolph with the Tennessee Titans, and Kenny Pickett with the Philadelphia Eagles?
Do you have a guess at what I would say? Do you have a prediction of the name I would pick of these?
I would think that you would put Mason first, Justin second, Kenny third.
That is my exact order. Mason Rudolph, I think, is far and beyond the most likely to start at least 2 games. Mason Rudolph might start half a season if Will Levis stinks. Justin Fields could start more than 2 games, and Kenny Pickett, the only way he's getting on the field is if Jalen Hurts is hurt, and I just hope that doesn't happen. I'll never bank on that. So Mason Rudolph, Justin Fields, Kenny Pickett.
We can answer this one really quickly. Lifted Ones wants to know, what team did I grow up watching? Pittsburgh Steelers. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania. I grew up watching all the Pittsburgh sports, hence most of the memorabilia behind me. But yes, sure. Lifted Ones, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Nice. DeMarcus wants to know, Corey Trice played 25% of the snaps in the slot at Purdue. Has he been in the slot at any point during his time in Pittsburgh?
We haven't gotten to see. That's the big thing. Is he an option at the slot? You hope so. But during OTAs and minicamp, he didn't play any team. So, or maybe like 1 or 2 snaps of team. So you didn't get to see anything there. Last year, training camp, he only lasted a couple of days before his ACL injury. So this year will be massive. Is he going to play in the slot? Is he an option? Right now, we have no idea, but possibly. I mean, that would be awesome. That would be best case scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers is Corey Trice and Darius Rush both continue to improve. Corey Trice can start in the slot for the time being, and Darius Rush can start or play on the outside and also play in the slot because he has slot experience as well. That's best case scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it's too early to tell.
Xavier wants to know, would Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers be available at all?
No, I think he signed a massive contract this offseason. I'm almost positive. Yeah.
I'll look that up while we go to the next question.
Yeah, I don't think it would be awesome, but I don't think so.
Ethan wants to know, do you think the Steelers have a shot at a deep playoff run this year, or do you believe it's going to be another one and done season? How do you feel about the current roster as it stands?
I feel great about the current roster. I think you need a wide receiver too, and you got to hope that Russell Wilson's something good, but I feel great about the Steelers' current roster. I'll feel better about them in the back half of the season if everybody stays healthy and Cam Sutton returns. I mean, a deep playoff, look, at the playoffs are all about who you get, the luck of the draw. You walk into Kansas City in the first round of the playoffs, I'm sorry, but if I had to guess, that's a one and done situation. But I would make that prediction against every team in the NFL except for the Kansas City Chiefs. If you find yourself against New York or playing at home or any of those situations, I think it's totally different. So I think the roster's made up for a playoff run. I think the offensive coordinator and the aggressiveness of the front office and the head coach and a better quarterback is made for a playoff run. But again, it's luck of the draw. It's always luck of the draw.
So for Mike Evans' contract, before we move on, he has 1 year left after this season at $22.3 million cap hit.
That would be awesome. I mean, if that's the case, that would be awesome. Is it likely? I would say probably not, but that would be awesome. Mike Evans, that he would top every list. I don't care about Brandon Ayuk. I don't care about any of them. Mike Evans, he's the guy.
It's Desi says, love the podcast. Do you think that Pickens leaves after his rookie contract is up?
If I had to guess right now, yeah. If I had to guess, that would be my prediction is Pickens is a one contract guy in Pittsburgh, just because he's going to be looking for the money. The Steelers don't pay their wide receivers. They pay some of them, but you got to be Hines Ward, Antonio Brown level good. They'll let a Mike Wallace walk. And right now, George Pickens is looking like the Mike Wallace. And that's great. Mike Wallace is phenomenal, but you got to be like that. Oh my gosh, this is unreal type of wide receiver Deontay Johnson was like the last one that they signed that it wasn't. And I mean, they didn't pay him a lot of money. So I think that was the case there. So I don't think George is going to take a hometown discount like Deontay did to stay in Pittsburgh. I would imagine, if I had to guess, he's gone after the one contract.
Eli wants to know, is Cole Holcomb going to be able to play at some point this season?
I hope so. I don't know. We're still waiting on any update with anything behind it, because right now it's just we're waiting to see, and it's not great. I would say I hope he plays in 2024. I don't expect him to be there at training camp, or at least on the field at training camp. I don't expect him to be available by week 1, but I don't know. It's bad when coaches keep saying, I hope so. I hope at some point we get Cole back, because that means that they have no idea when to expect Cole back.
Joe has a follow-up question about the schedule potentially going to 18 games. Says, how about getting 2 bye weeks and then add the Pro Bowl mid-season? Every other league has an all-star game midway through the year.
No, I mean, I love the idea here, but could you imagine telling anybody in the NFL, you have to take, because there's 2 parts to this. You're on a roll heading into week 8. Now you have a week off. The whole league has a week off. Awesome. But at the same time, not feeling good about it. And then you have 2 bye weeks, which is also great, keeps you healthy, but nobody would play the Pro Bowl in the middle of the season. Nobody. TJ Watt's not playing the Pro Bowl. Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, nobody's playing the Pro Bowl in the middle of the season. They're using that as a rest week. They're going to use it as a 3rd bye. So you'll lose more guys there. At least the way it is, you get some big names, but I think I hope you get to pitch these to the NFL, man, because I would love to figure it out. I'm not optimistic that we're going to be able to.
Jack the Goat says, will we do more trick plays without Matt Canada at the helm?
Maybe. I don't know. I think, to be as crazy as it sounds, I think it's going to be more effective jet sweeps, which is terrifying, but a jet sweep is useful when you could use it correctly. So I would say less trick plays, because Matt Canada drew up some. Do you remember Connor Hayward trying to throw a touchdown pass last year?
Yeah,
because I do.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it'll be more useful trick plays, I would say. I don't know about more of them.
Hollywood 913 or 931, excuse me, says, if somehow we don't land a true wide receiver 2, what are your realistic expectations? Because if so, Pickens has to play all 17 games.
Yeah, he has to. That's the biggest question mark, is if he does not, where do you go from there if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're in rough shape if that's what happens? So I think that's why I'm not ruling out a wide receiver 2. Like, the Steelers understand that there is a hole, and there are some people, hey, it's a little bit overblown. It's not. It's really not. Like, the Steelers are 1 injury away from lining up Van Jefferson and Quez Watkins with Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson in the middle, and that's terrifying. So you're not going to win games, especially in the back half of the year. You can't host Kansas City or go to Baltimore, Cincinnati, or Cleveland, or Philadelphia and say, hey, Van Jefferson and Marquez Callaway are going to get the job done. It's not going to happen. So I think I doubt the Steelers walk into the season with the wide receiver group that they have. It's just a matter of time.
Secret 77 wants to know, can Russell Wilson see the middle of the field? Because according to Denver, he can't even see it.
In Denver, he could not see it. I don't know if that was Denver. I don't know if that was Russell Wilson. Who knows? Arthur Smith's offense utilizes the middle of the field a lot. So I would hope that returns. I think Russell Wilson's a good enough quarterback to know what to do. I think the last 2 years, like, you ever play Madden and you don't even care what, like, you don't think about anything other than, like, I'm the quarterback, I have to score touchdowns. I think that was Russ last year. The last 2 years, he couldn't trust his head coaches. He couldn't trust his offensive coordinators. It was just him trying to win football games. And because of that, he had to be a hero all the time. Doesn't work out. But I hope that changes.
Certainly in Pittsburgh, because he's going to need a lot of Pat Freiermuth this year.
Yes, a lot.
Let's move over to Tom Ford, who says, do you think the Steelers are going to go to another Super Bowl with Mike Tomlin as the head coach?
I hope so. I hope TJ Watt gets a Super Bowl, man. He deserves one. I hope Cam Hayward gets a Super Bowl. He deserves one, but I think that's less likely. I hope so. I think all it takes is is what they have now, is an aggressive general manager, a good offensive coordinator, and a quarterback, and that's what you need, because Mike Tomlin could do the defensive side of stuff. He couldn't do the general manager side of stuff. He was terrible. He's terrible at trying to come up with names. Like with Kevin Colbert's last couple of years, it was, let's do this is my plan. And I think Mike is yeah, that sounds good. Where Omar's like, no, we're going to do it this way. And Mike's like, yeah, that sounds good. Let Mike be a head coach and everybody else control their other stuff. And I think that's when Mike does his best. So I hope so.
Pittsburgh Hornets has a personal question, says, what is the best piece of memorabilia that both of you currently have?
I don't know if I have a real good one, to be honest with you. I give everything away. Like, like all the jerseys and stuff, I give them to all you guys. I try to give everything as much as I can. I don't know. I like my books. I'm a big book guy. So I got the Palomalu book. I have Bill Cowher's book. I have another Jim Wexell book. Like, they're all given to me from the authors, and I think that's pretty cool. So that's probably my favorite stuff. What you got?
Yeah, this gray thing behind me is actually a signed Mario Lemieux jersey in a frame, but I rent, so command hooks aren't going to hold that up. It's too heavy. So for now, it's resting far away from cats.
That's pretty good, dude. That's as good as it gets. Definitely has mine beat.
Let's go over to DeMarcus, who wants to know a last year question. Darius Rush played pretty good against the Tennessee Titans. What was the reason for the diminished role since then?
I have no idea. I have zero. Like, I asked him, like, what happened? And I don't know. I was just rolling with the punches. All right. Well, we were all just as confused, pal, because I have no idea. I don't know. I think it was just the health of everybody else coming back, the emergence of Joey Porter Jr. I don't know exactly what it was, but I agree with you. I thought he did play decent. I wouldn't say well, but decent, against the Tennessee Titans. I am excited to see what Darius Rush can. Darius Rush is raw. You have to remember that. Like, he played wide receiver the first half of his college career. So he's still transitioning to a corner, and I'm excited to see what he does when he takes another step forward with a year of experience learning from Patrick Peterson and Joey Porter Jr. and Minka and all those guys.
Kyle wants to know, aside from health of the lineup, what is the most important uncontrollable variable that the Steelers need to have go their way?
Oh, that's I don't know. Is the health of other lineups a question? Because you never want injuries to happen ever. But if Patrick Mahomes misses the Christmas game, that helps. If Jalen Hurts isn't around, if it's Kenny Pickett versus the Pittsburgh Steelers in Philadelphia, Steelers by 30. So that one might help. But when it's in Pittsburgh, if we're sticking just Pittsburgh, uncontrollable variable. I don't know. That's so hard. You got one?
I was going to say late in the season with all those games, AFC North games against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
Weather. The worse the weather is, the better it's going to be for the Steelers. So if the weather goes their way late in the season, you're playing a lot of games like you played against Baltimore late last year. I think that leans towards the Steelers' favor.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good one. That's definitely a good one. We'll go uncontrollable variable as well. I mean, the AFC North just struggles outside of Pittsburgh. So that could help as well. That's a good question.
I feel like that's a long shot, though. The AFC North long shot. Tough.
Yeah, dude. So is the rest of this. So I'm just tossing fair. Anything I got out there. That's a good question.
Jack the Goat says, simply, do you like Arthur Smith?
Yeah. Big fan of Arthur Smith's offense. I like watching Arthur Smith tape. We talked to Daniel Flick, a Falcons writer, when they just hired Arthur Smith, and he had really good things to say. And he turned me on to some games, and like, he gave me his deep dive of Arthur Smith film, and I dove into it for a while. It was fun. Like, I'm the guy that, like, people get caught in the rabbit holes, like, and they'll, next thing you know, they're on YouTube till 3 a.m. That was me with Arthur Smith tape, and it was a blast. So I'm a big fan of what Arthur Smith could bring. And, his offense wasn't super successful in Atlanta last season, but I think he had a lot of pieces that were really good if he had a quarterback. And I'm excited to see what he does with one.
Jack had a second question here. Says, does George Pickens, as of right now, look like a top-tier wide receiver?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. George Pickens is a monster. He's a superstar. I was the first look at. I will proudly say, me and George Pickens don't get along very well. Inside the. I wish him nothing but the best. He knows that, but he's not a media guy, and that's just how it is. Joe, I was the first one, and I will say it proudly, to tell everybody that George Pickens is going to be an absolute superstar in the NFL, and I will stand by that firmly. He is going to be a monster in the NFL, and I think this is the biggest year of his career, hands down.
Vibing with the Dogs wants to know Cameron Johnston or Chris Boswell for kickoffs this year.
I have no idea because Chris Boswell got married during OTAs, so we didn't get to see him. Danny Smith never gives you a serious answer because he's awesome. I'm going to guess Chris Boswell gets the first shot at it, and then they'll play it from there. But if I had to guess, Chris Boswell.
Another interesting question here from ZYE says, in a worldwide football league, what country would you want to have a team, and what would the name be?
Is America like the answer there? Because there's the best football played here in America. If you can't pick America, anything with like Polynesian players, like Polynesian players are terror. You get a couple of Isaac Siamalu, some Brandon Fajokos, like that's scary. Those are scary human beings. Isaac terrifies me, and he also reminds me of a big giant teddy bear. Like it's super scary. I would say like a Polynesian team would be my second choice there, but America would be the best team name. That's tough. I don't think I'm gonna give a team name. I'm not gonna come up with a good one.
The Flying Palomalus, potentially.
That's a good one. The Flying Palomalus would be a good one. Just, yeah, that's a good one. One.
I'm a homer in this one. I'm 50% Greek. I'd go with the Greeks and just call them the Greek Freaks. We play in Athens.
Can you name one Greek football player though? Like listen, one football player from Greece?
Giannis can do all. I guarantee you, Giannis can do all. That is a
He's
tight
not playing 22 positions though.
No, but he has like 50 brothers that could potentially all play those types of shit.
That's true.
Let's move over to the next question. Tom Ford wants to know, who are you rooting for, if you are, to step up at QB, Russell Wilson or Justin Fields?
I don't think I am rooting for either of them. I'm looking for a good quarterback competition. I'm looking for the Pittsburgh Steelers to have two very reliable quarterbacks. To me, it doesn't really matter who they are, what one it is. I'm just looking for a step forward from the years past. And I think you have good options with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields.
Joe Dilly has a great question here. It says, so how do I get my fiance, who's a Browns fan, to jump on the Steelers bandwagon? And is your wife a Steelers fan?
My wife couldn't tell you one player on the Pittsburgh Steelers. No, she could. She knows Calvin Austin, friend of the show. She's a big Calvin Austin guy just because she likes anybody who's very nice. And that's like when we have conversations, it's like, oh, how was work today? And I'm like, oh, it was good. I talked to Calvin. I talked to Russ and blah, blah, blah. Like, she's like, she likes those people. If I have good things to say. But when it comes to being a fan, I don't think she's ever watched a Steelers game in her life. Dude, the best advice I could give you is just swarm her. Just swarm her. You know what I mean? You know what they do with like children when they just, tie them in a blanket? Tie your house in a Steelers blanket. In other words, she should come home from work one day and it should just be Steelers everywhere. And then let her know that will not change. Give her time. Don't say forever. Just be like, hey, just give it 6 months. Let's see what happens all throughout football season. And, maybe that works.
On Sundays, you eat just Isley's chipped ham sandwiches
and watch the Primanti Bros. Yeah. And like make Primanti Bros sandwiches from home if you're not in Pittsburgh. But chipped ham, yeah, definitely.
Another question here says, what are the chances the Steelers pick up Jerome Bettis Jr. in a few years?
I mean, they love family. They love the bloodlines. So maybe. Jerome Bettis Jr. is cool. Did you see Ike Taylor's kid switch to Michigan the other day? I was like, dude, iconic picture for nothing. What are you doing? Hope them all the best. But yeah, I could see that happening. I could.
Secret 77 wants to know, how about Justin Simmons? Do you think he can assist the secondary from his true position?
Yeah, I do, but I don't think that they're looking to do that just because I believe they look at it and say that Deshaun Elliott's their guy. They want Deshaun Elliott to be the guy next to Minka for the next couple of years. They're both young. They can grow together. So I don't think Justin Simmons is an option right now. If something happened, that changes. But for right now, I'm going to say no.
Charlie has an interesting one here. Says, would the Steelers have hired Arthur Smith if Kenny Pickett would have been cut before the hiring?
Yeah, definitely. Arthur Smith was their top guy. You knew Arthur Smith was their top guy when we were talking to Art Rooney and he was detailing the Steelers offensive coordinator role, and you knew that they were going to hire I knew in the meeting, I knew when we were talking to Art Rooney that, because I texted you and Steven days before the hire came, and I said, hey, Steelers just hired Arthur Smith. And I wasn't allowed to report it because I couldn't get a second source on it, but I knew it was coming. So we're sitting there and he's detailing what the Steelers' next offensive coordinator is going to be. And you knew from the jump that they were going to hire Arthur Smith no matter what. They were looking for a guy who could run the football and be dominant on the ground, take him back to old school, hard-nosed football. And that's Arthur Smith. So yes, definitely Arthur Smith would have been their guy.
DeMarcus wants to know, do you guys ever get Steelers burnt out? Might take a week off from football in the summer, but I can't fall asleep without some Steelers content on my TV.
I don't think burnout's the right word. This time of year, like this morning, I will read you guys word for word what I texted Nick this morning when we were going through the show here. Let's see here.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up. I said, hey, Justin Fields, this is the topics for today's show. Justin Fields' best opportunity to become the Steelers starter next season. Is finding a slot cornerback more important than a wide receiver too? And we'll answer as many questions as we can because we're out of shit to talk about. So that's where we are. July gets a little tough, but I don't think burnout. I have a blast. I could sit here and hang out with you guys all day.
Jack the Goat says, is TJ Watt still looking good considering he's getting older?
Yeah, TJ Watt's terrifying.
Look at JJ Watt.
Yeah, he's a terrifying human being. And he's only 30 years old, and I get that that's old, but I mean, I was on Steelers Afternoon Drive like a week ago or something, and I was just talking, like, the question was, like, how long could TJ Watt go? And I said 5 years before I expect him to, like, die down. So, yeah, TJ Watt's still just as good as he was last year. Scary good.
And we have a very important question to close things out right here. What day will Brandon Ayuk get traded to Pittsburgh, Noah, and what time specifically?
The time is tough. Definitely while I'm trying to sleep, no doubt about it, or on the road, driving somewhere, enjoying a nice dinner. It's always, you know what I mean? Like, you get the tingles sometimes. It's like the spidey sense where you're like putting the backpack on and you're closing because I'm like from March 1st until February 1st, I call it backpack season, to where you bring your laptop everywhere. If you're grocery shopping, you have a backpack on. If you are walking to go get a coffee, you have a backpack on. Like, you don't leave your laptop anywhere because you just never know. You get the tingles sometimes. You like shut the car door and like you start up the truck and you pull away and you're like, I know it's coming. And then you look at the phone, you're like, there it is. Pull it right over. So I'm gonna say August. I'm gonna say like second week of August. It happens. It's before the end of training camp. The 49ers are really backed against the wall. Time of day, I don't know. I'll text you. I'll let you guys know. I'll like toss it on Twitter. Hey, leaving training camp. This is when it's going to happen. So I'll let you guys know.
That's going to do it for questions for today.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you guys for some great questions today. Thank you, everybody, for jumping on to another episode. We will be back tomorrow. Find all of our work at youtube.com/allsteelerstalk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, please go find all of our stuff at si.com/NFL/Steelers. Announcement for tomorrow. We will be a little late. We usually start about 9:30. Tomorrow we'll probably start about 9:30, 10. Just some stuff to do in the morning, but we will be there. So don't think that we're leaving you guys hanging. Enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.